Welcome to Caching Waves. This is an Elliott wave update for Solana. Now a recap where I have us on the daily in my bullish scenario is currently working on a wave 4 in our 5-wave impulse. Now since the significant low, we had a wave 1 and 2 as a WXY came between the 50 and the 618 retracement. As expected, we then had another 1-2, came just past the 618 retracement. And we had quite an extension for our wave 3, zigzag in our wave 2, running flat in our wave 4, came up and got extensions for our wave 3 past the 1.618. We then got a running flat for our wave 4, a 335, and our 5th wave came up for our 3rd. You can see we came quite extended in both waves. And because of that, my indication is once this 4th wave is complete, our targets for that, because of the extension, is just the 1-to-1 of wave 1 extended from wave 4. Whenever that is complete, will be my target for wave 5. And that'll be down here. We just have to wait for the pivot. As of right now, I'd expect at least the 2.618, but most likely higher than that, depending what sort of correction we get for this wave 4. A few things I'm tracking as well is I put on our shift pitchfork. This is a technique to help you find where the wave 4 is likely to pivot. And all this is, a modified pitchfork, is the beginning of wave 1 off of wave 2, extended from wave 1. That's all a modified pitchfork is, just a channel. So your initial area you want to look for is right at the top end of that channel. If this fails, it's the middle of the channel. Now I'm not sure which one we're going to get here, but I'm going to talk about this area and all the corrective patterns that can play out. One thing to keep a note as well is I extended the wave 2 off of the end of wave 3 for symmetry, and we want it to take about the same amount of time. If this ends up being a triangle, it might get extended out a little bit, but you can see we're pretty close to where we want to be for this to be a completed correction in order to make that move to the upside before I would switch viewpoints and potentially expect a larger correction to the downside, in which case this whole count would change. But I'm not going to talk about the bearish scenarios at the moment. I will talk about that if we start making new lows. All right, let's talk about the bullish scenarios. We'll talk about the most bullish scenario first, and that is that we have a triangle. Not the prettiest triangle. We have 3-wave move for our A, 3-wave move for our B, 3-wave move for our C. D complete or needs one more high. Depends what sort of pattern we get here. It looks like a B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentially, and then we come back for our E, and then we extend off for our 5th. In this case, we would get higher targets, probably above 350, because we'd take our 1-to-1 extension of our larger wave 1 off the end of the E wave. So this is my most bullish scenario. Not the nicest symmetry in this triangle, but it is valid. And as long as we stay above 121 before we make new highs in this 3-wave pattern, this would be my primary scenario. Alternatively, my other bullish scenario where we don't make new lows from here is a flat pattern. And what that would look like is 3 waves for our A. We're in the middle of a B wave. Now, minimum requirement to become a flat is the 90% retracement of this A wave, which is at 198.05. And you can also see I pulled from our A wave off this smaller B wave. The 1-to-1 is right at that zone. So that's our minimum requirement. And if we do get that, we'd expect a C wave to be near the A wave. Now we can also make a running flat, which means we just get some extensions here come up to this zone. The highest we would want to come is 263.75 to make this a B wave, and it would be an A. This would chop its way up, even extend out a little bit longer in 3-wave patterns. This becomes a B, and then we look for a matching wave for the C wave and protect the A wave. So if we make a new high above the 3rd in choppy 3-wave patterns, we'd be looking for a matching wave here for our C wave. Stop would go at the A wave in that scenario. Now our bearish scenarios, just in the short term, bullish overall, but just in the short term, is as such. We have a 3-wave move for a W wave. We have our X wave, and we're looking for a 3-wave move for our Y wave. Now this can be counted multiple different ways. This is the issue when we get a lot of overlap. I can actually count this as a double zigzag, ABC, ABC, and our A wave ends here, and now we're working on a B wave, but in this scenario, we'd want this to become a flat, so we'd expect it to at least come to 180.66, because then we can get 5 waves down, and that would be a double 3 back-to-back flats. So I'd want to see at least 180.66 for this scenario before I would expect the C wave. So that's scenario 2. Target for that at the 1-to-1 of this W off this X is at 104.25. So depending what the pattern looks like here, I would be interested in a very tight entry. If we come up to that 90 zone, and it would look like something like this. It's that scenario. That's what I would look for. Final scenario. This is actually my second primary after the bullish triangle, and that is we're making a WXY with a triangle X. 3-wave move, A, B, C, D, E, target the 1-to-1. We have to wait for the E wave to target that 1-to-1 whenever that finishes. But that would also take us down to like that 103 zone, back into the area of the previous 4th of 1 lesser degree. Now, I want to show you a scenario where this happened. This is where patterns tend to repeat, and I'll show you this. This C wave can also get one more kick up, like this. And we just get an A, B, C. 535, right? On the micro. And this can also be complete if this is a running flat B wave, ABC. So in this scenario, I'm going to show you on ICP. So take a look at this. 3 waves down, and then we're grinding sideways, right? This was previous on ICP. You can see 3 waves down, grinding sideways would be about at this zone here. I'm going to go back to the chart, take a mental note of that, and you can see it's very close. This is why Elliott wave is helpful. Patterns repeat. Just put it in your memory bank, right? So I'm either considering this one currently or the bullish triangle. It's going to be a tough spot. Rather than the flat. So I'm going with the triangles first, flat second. So one thing to consider is knowing all these options. I know I get comments sometimes from people that don't get this stuff, that don't grasp it, and they're like, oh, so you're saying it can go up or down? Yep, that's what I'm saying. But it's important how the patterns play out, and that's how we get our really good risk-reward trade setups, right? So in the bearish scenario, I would wait for this to play out. And there's multiple ways to play this. If the count is very clear, 3 wave-ish, You can get as close to the C wave as you can and get a very good risk reward on the short, targeting that eventual 1-to-1. You can see it's 3.5-ish plus to 1. Also in the bullish triangle, you can do the same thing. So say we get one more kick up, we come down for this E wave. And also take the long with the stop of that C wave, knowing you're going to all-time highs. So both are pretty good trade setups. I do this once in a while where I'll try and get the high end of the entry short and the high entry of the entry long and let one take out the other. So we'll put on that bearish triangle. And if I'm able to, obviously I have to be watching very carefully, but if I'm able to get both, like so, this area is my profit, right? If I'm able to buy this low, we start to move up. This area is my profit. This zone right here, and I can get the short up in this area. And this area is neutral, and I will put the stop on the long below that C, the stop on the short above that D, and let one take out the other and just let it run. That way you're on both sides of the trade. It's a little more advanced and you have to be watching it in real time to get those entries. But it takes some guesswork out of it. You know you're going to most likely lose 1 unit, but at least you're making it up the other side, right? As one's going up in value, the other is going down. So it's neutral in that zone till one gets stopped out, as long as you get the high end of the D wave and the low end of the D wave on the long way, right? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, guys. Again, just to show you that ICP, you can kind of see how it plays out. Very similar. Not an exact copy, but it mirrors. But we'll have to wait and see what we get. I'm going to be trying to do that triangle both ways as long as this fills out, and go from there. All right, guys, that's it for Solana. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.